everyone, and from the Sussex Handmade Soap Company here, welcome to our channel and welcome to our video. And today's video is going to be a little bit different to our usual ones. Normally we are trying to create sort of fantastical designs and testing techniques and whatnot. Today what we're actually going to be doing is testing clays in soap with regards to colouring soap naturally. The reason for this video is I'm a member of a fair few soap forums and things, and one question I often see is how can you colour soap completely naturally? So no micas, no other colourants, just using pure natural ingredients. And one way that I've found that is really useful for colouring soaps is using clay. So today I'm going to be showing you a selection of 8 different clays that we're going to use to try and colour our soaps. When using clays, there's a few things to remember. The most important one is not to use metal tools to stir your clays and not to use metal containers to house your clays. The reason for this is that the metal could potentially react with the clay and make it less effective, which obviously you don't want. So the predominant reason for us using the clays today is for colouring, but they do have added benefits actually within the soap as well, and I'll be discussing these as we go through the video one by one. I'm going to be using these clays at a ratio of 1 tablespoon per pound of oil. You can play about with that, you can go a little bit higher or you can go lower. Obviously it's just going to slightly affect the colour that you get at the end. But I'm starting with 1 tablespoon per pound of oil because that's quite a good ratio to have. So come and join me on my natural clay colouring adventure. So these are the selection of clays that we're going to be working with today. And I'm going to start by mixing each clay with half a tablespoon of warm water. And this is to help them combine so that they blend into the soap batter that little bit easier. I'm using a wooden chopstick for stirring because, as I said, it's important to not use metallic tools with clays. And this one here is a Rhassoul clay. I'm just going to mix this one in. This one, Rhassoul clay, comes from Morocco. It's been used since ancient times to cleanse and purify skin. It's rich in silica, and that's an element that's needed for collagen production, and it's got magnesium as well, which protects against wrinkles and inflammation. It's great for oily skin because it's highly absorbent, and it's used often in spa treatments and things like that as well. Next we have got some French green clay just here, and again half a tablespoon of water. I'm using all these clays at a ratio of 1 tablespoon per pound of oil, which is fairly high, but I want to make sure that the colours actually pop and come through quite nicely. You can experiment with the usage rates yourself, use a little bit less, use a little bit more. Just find out what works for you, but this is just a basic idea. French green clay is great for oily skin. It's brilliant at helping with acne and removing blackheads, and it'll help with skin repair as well. And now we've got some French yellow clay. A French yellow clay, similar to French green clay. It tightens and tones the skin. It's a great cleanser, and it should leave the skin soft and smooth as well. You see we're getting a nice sort of mustardy yellow colour, I would say, for this one. And now we're on to rose clay. 1 half tablespoon of water in there. And rose clay is one of my favourite clays, both for actually colouring soap and actually for the skin benefits as well. It's a really gentle clay, one of the most gentle clays that you can get. It's great for dry, mature or sensitive skin. Again, it'll draw impurities away from the skin and absorb excess oil, but it does leave the skin feeling incredibly soft. So yeah, one of my favourite clays to use, and it comes out such a pretty rosy pink colour in soap as well. Here we have got just some white kaolin clay. And this just helps to brighten up the soap a little. It doesn't change the colour massively, but it just helps to give a little added brightness in the soap. And the clay itself is another one that is great for dry skin. It's a very gentle clay and works well with dry skin, this one. It doesn't absorb too much oil, so it won't leave the skin feeling dry or sensitive. It is just incredibly gentle. Now we're moving on to Dead Sea clay. And this, like the rose clay, is one of my favourite clays. The rose clay is one of my favourites because of the ability to colour and get such beautiful pinks. The Dead Sea clay is one of my favourites purely because it is such a fantastic clay to use on the skin. It's from ancient seabeds of the Dead Sea, which is down in Israel. It's full of minerals and vitamins. It's really good for problem skin, great for acne and psoriasis and things like that. If you are making a soap to sell with Dead Sea clay in it, you can't actually market it as designed to clear up psoriasis. You can't say that it will help, because that's classed as making a medical claim, and then you need different certification and whatnot. So you can't actually say it helps, but believe me, we've had a lot of customer feedback from customers that have just told us that it helps. And I've used it myself, and it is great for acne. And it's at this point that I've just realised that when I told you that this one was Rhassoul clay, I made a little mistake. That is actually red clay. This here is the Rhassoul clay. So this one here, here's where we get complicated. This one here is the benefits of that one there. I described those benefits for this one. So I'm going to describe now, while I'm mixing this one, the benefits of the red clay, which is actually this one here. Sorry for the confusion. This is Rhassoul clay, but while I mix it, I shall tell you about the benefits of red clay. So red clay is, again, it's full of minerals, magnesium, calcium, potassium. It improves skin tone, texture, clarity. It's really gentle, and another one that is great for dry skin. Red clay's got a negative charge. Most toxins in the body have got a positive charge, and that's why it works really great, almost like a magnet at drawing those impurities and toxins away from the skin. And lastly, I'm trying to create something of an orange colour, so I've got the French yellow clay and the Moroccan red clay in there together. I'll mix these in, and I'm hoping that they're going to create something of an orangey sort of colour. The thing about working with clays is it is a lot of fun, and you can kind of mix them up and see what you get. There's a blue clay that I want to work with actually, Cambrian blue clay, but I haven't got any of that at the minute, which is a shame, because if I did, I would be trying to create purples by mixing sort of the red and blue together, but at the minute I don't have any Cambrian blue clay, so we'll do that one another day. And now we're going to get on to trying to colour the soap. So I haven't showed you us making up the soap batter today, because today is more about using natural clays to colour soap than the actual making of the soap. This is the same recipe as we use in our other soap videos anyway, and so if you want to check out the recipe, look at one of our other videos and the recipe will be in the description. All I will say is that I have taken into account the fact that I've been adding half a tablespoon of water into each of those clays, and I've used a water discount in my lye solution so that I don't end up with too much water in the soap. And now, because we want individual bars today, I'm going to split this down into 8 because we've got enough to make 8 individual bars, and then we're going to use those clays to colour each bar individually so that we can see how they work and how they perform. So let's split this down into 8 small cups now. So they're all split evenly now, and into this first pot we're going to add the rose clay. Trying to scrape out of as much of it as possible. Now we're just going to mix it in to combine it, again using a wooden chopstick because you don't want to use metal with clay, as I said. I've worked this to a light trace as well, just because there's so many that we're doing today that I don't want it to thicken up on me too much before all the colours are in. But I think that's fairly nicely combined, so let's move on to the next one. Now we'll use the white kaolin clay. That's poured in nicely. And as you'll see with this one, it won't make a massive difference to the colour, but just adds sort of a brightness. And it's nice when you're doing a soap, perhaps a swirled soap that's incorporating a white sort of colour. Just a little bit of kaolin clay can sometimes help to make the colour pop out and seem just a little bit brighter, a little bit whiter, which is nice. Next we'll go with the yellow clay. And again, that's pouring out quite nicely. So mixing them with water beforehand definitely helps them to be incorporated into the batter a little bit better. Let's go mixing this one. And the other benefits of using clays in soaps, as well as colouring the soap, which I guess is what a lot of people do tend to use them for, but they're also exfoliating. They help exfoliate the skin, make it a little bit brighter, a little bit clearer. All clays will tend to draw impurities away from the skin, helping you get less blackheads, less acne, things like that. They'll also absorb excess oil, which again will lead to less problematic skin. Now the French green clay. And clays can also help to add a kind of silky quality to the soap as well. Some people like that, some people think it really does massively improve the feel of the soap. Some people say they can't really feel much of a difference. It's all down to personal preference. But yeah, the addition of the clay can add a nice sort of smooth, silky feeling. Now I'll use the Moroccan red clay in this one here. And if you're using essential oils in your soaps as opposed to fragrance oils, and we do use essential oils, that's all we use at the moment. Not to say we'll never venture into fragrance oils, but at the minute we are purely essential oils. One benefit of clay is that essential oils can sometimes get difficult to get the scent to stick in soaps. And by that I mean that after saponification, the scent can sometimes seem to fade, especially with citrus oils. And one technique is to actually mix the essential oil with some clay and incorporate them into the soap together. And the clay can sometimes help in anchoring the scent. So if you are having trouble with a soap and you can't get an essential oil scent to stick, try incorporating it with a little bit of clay, and that may well help the scent to stick that little bit better for you. Now we're going to go in with the Rhassoul clay. And Rhassoul just sort of tends to add quite a nice sort of browny, beigey tone to the soap. It's quite subtle, but it just changes the colour up a little bit. And I think the last benefit to clays and soaps, if you are selling, and I know some of you will be selling, some of you will be doing it just for hobby, and some of you won't even be making soap but just enjoy watching videos, and that's cool. Whatever you're watching these videos for, we're just glad you're watching them. So, but if you are selling the soap, you'll sometimes find that actually having a clay incorporated, it just adds a little bit of label appeal. People like things with clays and added benefits and whatnot, so yeah, it adds label appeal to the soap. Now one of my top two favourite clays, the Dead Sea clay. When I was a teenager I used to use Dead Sea clay all the time. I used to use the masks and everything. I used to pop down to Boots and buy their Dead Sea clay mud mask. And when I was 13, 14, I was super lucky in that I actually got to go to the Dead Sea on a school trip of all things. I mean, I don't know what that says about my school, the fact that we were taking school trips to Israel. Probably that I went to quite a nice school. Not private, it was a public state school. State educated, but we just got the opportunity. I don't know if the school got a discount or whatever, or an opportunity, or if they knew somebody who knew somebody, but either way we got to go on a school trip to Israel, which was mad and crazy and great. But I actually got to swim, well not swim because you can't swim in it, but I actually got to go in the Dead Sea, and that was amazing. Just an absolutely fantastic experience. I got a little bit of the water in one of my eyes, that stung like crazy, with all the salt. But it was, yeah, an absolutely awesome experience. And lastly, the French yellow and Moroccan red clay, which we've mixed together to try and create an orange. It's all about experimenting and just having a little bit of fun and just seeing what works and what doesn't. And what works for me may not work for you guys, and what works for you guys may not work for me. There's always so many different factors in soap making. You know, how thick or thin your trace is, the temperature, climate. So much stuff affects soap making, and so you kind of just got to go with what works for you. So now we've mixed up all those clays, we're just going to pour them into this 12-bar silicone mould. We're only going to obviously be filling up 8 of them. That's the batter that we've worked out. But if my calculations have worked, they should pretty much fill each cavity. So this is the red and yellow clay. We'll start with this one, just dipping it in here. Now we're going with the French green clay. It's a very subtle shade of green. Right, now we've got the rose clay here. The white kaolin clay going in now. Yellow clay into this one. Here comes the Rhassoul clay. You can see this is one where the colour change is subtle. Now we're going in with the Dead Sea. That gives quite a nice grey-green bar, I find. And lastly, we've got the red and yellow. The mix of red and yellow. And I'm sort of pausing there because I kind of feel like I've already poured one in and said it's red and yellow, which makes me wonder if I've made a little mistake somewhere. If I have, and even if I haven't, I'll actually pop up at the end of this video some text to show you which one is which. I've got a vague feeling that I might have said that was red and yellow. It's not, that's just the red. So that is all of our clays that we've been testing today. As you can see, we've already got quite a pretty little colour palette going on. These will change slightly as they saponify and cure, but they find blah 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 blah. But I find that clays tend to stick fairly well in soap. They don't fade too much. A lot of natural colourants will fade over time. We find that our clays tend to stick around pretty well, and after a day or two, the colour that they are is generally the colour that they tend to stay. So we'll come back tomorrow. I will pop up now what each of these are, and we'll come back tomorrow, turn them out, and I shall show you the colours that they have turned.
You got tara masalata, hummus, cheese and chives dip, cheese and onion.
Oh, shall I get the breadsticks?
Bacon paste, sardine and tomato.
So, welcome back. These soaps are out of the mould now. They've been out of the mould for a good couple of weeks actually. It's been quite a long time since we made them, but we haven't had time to do the video. I'm going to try and keep this bit brief because in between making the soap and doing this part of the video, I have edited the first part and I've realised that it's actually incredibly long. So let's keep this brief, keep it simple, tell you what they are and show you them. Right, so here we have got the Moroccan red clay. As you can see, it's turned out quite a nice dark, almost orangey red colour there. So that's the colour that you'll get with these. Remember, we were using 1 tablespoon per pound of oil. This is the French green clay. It's a very subtle light green. If you were looking for something darker, you could try using a little bit more. So maybe go up to 1.5 tablespoons per pound of oil, possibly even try 2 tablespoons per pound of oil. It's all about experimenting and having a bit of fun while you're doing it. Here we've got the rose clay, which as I say is one of my favourites. It's a very gentle, pale, rosy pink colour, I would say, and this is one of my favourite clays, as I've said many times throughout this video. Then we've just got the white kaolin clay. And I do think it looks a little bit brighter than soaps without kaolin clay, but there's not a huge difference. I just find it adds, yeah, just a little bit of brightness. Then we have got the Dead Sea clay, which is a nice greeny grey colour. I'd say it's more grey than green, but there is a slight green tint to it, but predominantly grey. French yellow clay is next, and it is quite a nice mustardy yellow colour. I think it's really pretty, very attractive one, and I do like this. I like them all, so I don't know why every single time I lift one up I go, I like this, I like this, I like them all. This is the Rhassoul clay, so again it's quite a subtle colour change, possibly slightly grey. Sorry, somebody... I've got somebody literally like, you know, right next to me there, pulling faces at me, and he's throwing me off what I'm doing. And now he's running the tap.
Commence.
Okay, now he's finished running the tap. I don't know what I was saying about this one.
Rhassoul.
It's nice. It's Rhassoul. It's subtle.
Rhassoul Howard.
Oh my god! Stop making me think. I really fancy Rhassoul Howard. He's well fit. Right. Lastly, we've got the mixture of the yellow French clay and the Moroccan red clay to try and give us an orangey sort of colour. This is the red clay on its own, so as you can see there is a slight colour difference, nothing major, but it's slight. And this is the yellow that we mixed it with. So there we go, a nice little colour palette there. And I think those three would actually work quite nicely in a soap together because they are similar, they go well. Perhaps we should do a soap with them. If you think that's a good idea, let us know in the comments box. So those are the clays. I hope this has been informative for you. I say it's quite a long video. I tried to cut it down as much as possible, but it still ended up being really long. Hopefully it's been interesting and you might have learned a bit, but have an experiment with clays. They're a lot of fun and you can achieve some really pretty colours out of them. So there we go. I haven't quite got big enough hands to hold all 8 clays, but these are probably my favourite 4. Hopefully you found today's video useful, hopefully you found it enjoyable, hopefully it might have given you some ideas of how to experiment with your own soaps. But I'm happy with how these have turned out. The colours are pretty nice, I'm enjoying them. They are quite subtle, which is what you'd expect with clays, but the benefit of your clay is that they should stick fairly well in the soap. Unlike some other natural colourants which can fade, when we've used clays in the past, we do find that the final colours after saponification do tend to be the colours that stick around for a good few months at least. So hopefully you have found today's video useful and enjoyable. If you have, we would really love a like or a subscribe, they all help us. And we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.